seems that you are new to Riot and Friends being deckbags. Allow me to fill you in on what they've done and why there's some major hate from them around here. You seem a bit in the dark, so you should know where all this hate is coming from. First off, I'll admit that some assholes are actually venomous towards LoL simply to be dicks. I know that's silly. LoL isn't a terrible game, though I personally like Dota more. Haters will forever be haters. But for most of us, the real source of bad blood comes from the fact that Riot and their parent company, Tencent, have actively tried to do whatever was within their power to sabotage Dota 2. Get ready, because there is a long list of shit that they have pulled. First off, you might have heard the name Pendragon, one of the community managers for Riot now. Infamous even in the LoL community for banning people just because they ran them. Well, back in the day, he was also in charge of the #1 Dota forum, DotaAllStars.com. Now, Pendragon, recently employed by Riot Games at this point, decided to be a gigantic motherfucker, tore the site down, said some bullshit, and left an ad for LoL in its place. Oh, and he held onto the archives for years, only recently releasing them. And to top it off, he claims to this day that he only had the best intentions for the community in mind. What a fucking shitlord. Speaking of Pendragon, it is widely speculated that he was the one behind this load of slander. This one hasn't been confirmed though. I don't have a link for it, but Riot also had bought a C Dota 2 domain name that redirected to LeagueOfLegends.com, and they actually did this. They also marketed their game in a way that tried to put Dota 2 down. Even worse, Riot attempted to counterfile for a Dota trademark simply to prevent Dota 2 from happening, all while claiming they were doing this for the sake of the Dota community. Fuck these guys. Riot also has exclusivity agreements with tournaments that prevent them from having any other similar game and events that receive sponsorship money from Riot, including Dota, On, and Blow My Champions. Even worse, with their recent attempt to ban teams from even having a Dota team if they have a LoL team competing in Riot-sponsored events. Sounds absurd? Well, it sure is, but that's Riot for you. Thankfully, they seem to realize that the second part was an awful idea and never went through with it. And the most recent was the attempt to buy their parent company to spread the outright lie that Dota 2 would not be free to play in China, instead cost $100 US a copy. So yeah, as you can see, the Dota community is a little bitter about this. Now, pay attention to the numbers in what I'm about to read. Each one corresponds to the link that's provided. A letter from Pendragon, creator of DotaAllStars.com. I'm republishing a letter currently splashed on the DotaAllStars.com website, written by its creator, Pendragon. DotaAllStars.com visitor. Some of you may know me, many of you probably won't these days. This website was born October the 14th, 2004. It was a mere 2 months after I turned 18 and it was the first website I'd ever made. Juinsu was the lead developer before IceFrog. Dota had no competitive scene and maybe 5% of the players that it does today. In the years that followed, the site turned from a small forum with only 30,000 users to a massive community with only over 1 million visitors every month, 1 million page views every day, and a staff of over 100 volunteers. It's been incredible discovering the generosity of individuals who selflessly donate their time to create a positive experience for others. In the summer of 2008, I met Juinsu in real life for the first time. He and his boss were in town and they wanted to meet up and go out for steak. And honestly, how could I say no? I assumed that they were working on a game based on Dota, free from all the limitations of Warcraft 3 engine and Battle.net. Several months after meeting and several trips to their offices to learn more about the project, I joined the Riot Games team working on League of Legends. When I first joined the team, September of 2008, my original intent was to work on League of Legends full-time and continue to build DotaAllStars.com into an awesome, thriving Dota community after IceFrog's departure. While I originally intended to leave this out in the letter, in light of the fact that this information is now out in the open, I think it's important to set the record straight. Many believe that IceFrog left because I wanted to commercialize, and he did not. In reality, I learned that IceFrog had been secretly working for S2 Games after conducting a series of meetings where he was attempting to sell a full Dota game concept to a number of companies, including Riot. The difference differences of opinion that we had were merely that I chose to be transparent and honest about the project that I was working on and the direction my career was going. After working on and launching LoL, I began to realize that, in addition to having no free time anymore, with LoL available to play, I no longer possessed the passion for Dota which once drove me. The traffic on the website slowly began to decline, settling where it is now at about 50% of where it was a year ago, and I recently realized that I had a decision to make. I could either continue to say that I would rebuild the site as a strong Dota community, knowing that my heart wasn't really in it, or I could archive the site, ending an almost 6-year chapter of my life that I've invested thousands of hours into. Ultimately, I believe that the right decision here is to not trick myself into thinking that this site will be reborn into what it once was, and to shift my full focus into time into a new project, with an eye towards the future. The website and the Dota community will always hold a special place in my heart. It's been an amazing experience working with so many wonderful people, gaining so much insight about communities and people, and ultimately myself. There are more people deserving of thanks than I could possibly remember. So, rather than leaving anybody out, I'll simply thank everyone who has volunteered or contributed to the site over the last few years, and everyone who helped me make it one of the premier Dota site websites in the world. The website will be offline for the next week or so while the database has moved to its new permanent home, where its contents will remain archived and available to the public for the sake of historical preservation. In the meantime, I hope some of you will join me over the 3 million other players for a game of League of Legends. It's free. Sincerely, Pendragon.